Guess who is here?
Well, I saw you already bobbing to the the countdown and getting ready for the final session. I mean,
It's catchy.
I tell you what, I've got to give a quick shout out to Joel Felsenstein, who put our sting and countdown together, because it's just you listen to it for the first few seconds, you think, oh, okay, and then after like 10 seconds, you find yourself just naturally kind of bobbing along and thinking, what's going on here? I've been taken on this trip. So massive thank you to Joel for putting that together for us, and Sue,
thanks, Joel,
for the last 7 episodes coming into number 8, and it's been an interesting journey, because we've had lots of people that have been engaging, people that have come to the video afterwards, during, lots of questions. And there've been some interesting messages in the background. We've had a lot of support from other professionals in your industry as well, which is great to hear. And then we've got to this final episode, which is all about what stops you from getting what you really want. And I think from all the other 7 episodes, I think we've got a little hint of where that's going. And
it's worth repeating.
Absolutely. But I think this is so important. And I'm looking forward to this conversation with you and seeing what comes out of this. And for those of you that are watching or listening, please do us a favor, drop in the comments where you are joining us from. Tell us any questions you may have, and please do us a favor, make sure that you reach out and connect with Sue. She's an incredible human being, and she does accept connections. She's not too snooty on LinkedIn, and she's always open to having a conversation. So definitely do reach out to her, either during this episode or after. And if you are watching the replay of this and you have a question, please drop it in the comments. Also go to Sue Plumtree on LinkedIn and reach out to her. We will respond to messages even post.
Always.
Absolutely. So we're eager to hear your thoughts, and ultimately the aim of these interviews are to shed some light on some of the real life challenges that all of us have, and be able to give you something that you can walk away with, actionable, content that you can think, okay, you know what, that actually applies to me. What am I going to do about this? So hopefully by the end of this, you've come away with 1 or 2 things that have really kind of resonated with you. And that you feel, okay, that sheds some light on why and when and how, and now what do I do? So there are multiple people out in the world that you can connect with and get help from, but obviously Sue is there to help you as well. Yes, she's based in the UK, but hey, look at this, we're online and she can reach you anywhere in the world. So Sue, how has your week been going?
Absolutely amazing.
I just love the fact that you always show up with such incredible energy, no matter what's going on in your world. And it's just like that smile comes on and I'm like, okay, and I have to share this with you, Sue, because yesterday, I don't know why, but there were 3 or 4 people that had this discussion with me about, And ironically, it fits in with this topic that we're doing today. But it was about the if I then I conversation. So as an example, or when I then I conversation. So it's like when I have my own house, I'll be happy. When I am married, I'll be happy. When I have the perfect job, I'll be happy. When I've hit my 1 million in the bank, I'll be happy. Or when I have that car or that bicycle, or when I can run my marathon under a certain amount of time, then I'll be happy. And when I look at you and all the conversations we've ever had, the big difference is you've got that magic where you are happy regardless of the outcomes, and this is such a, for me, I was thinking about it yesterday. I was thinking, wow, this is going to really fall in with Sue's conversation, because of the fact that so many people, if you look at life, say we call it 100 years, they have these little spots that they aim for happiness, as opposed to happiness the whole way through. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to add one other thing. It's not regardless of the outcome. I'm happy irrespective of my outer circumstances, which, as I shared with you yesterday when we had a chat, and is less than ideal. If you remember, I have some health challenges that for a while have been getting me down. But actually, I have so much in my life I'm grateful for, including your friendship, Mac, including being here with you, my life purpose. I know I make a difference in people's lives. I make a difference in my husband's lives too. And
And
therefore,
and and that's incredible.
irrespective of what's going on in other areas of my life, I'm happy.
And I think that's such a, I want people to take a few seconds to really let that sink in.
Yeah.
Because, I know, I spent several years where I was kind of, trying to figure out what am I going to be when I grow up. and sitting there thinking, okay, well, I'll be happy when, and which meant there were many years of emptiness, because you sat there thinking, I can't be happy until.
Yeah.
And therefore really robbing yourself of happiness,
Yes,
when ultimately
exactly.
you can be happy at any given time. And I remember seeing somebody talk about this a few years ago, where they posted something about, yes, you can have everything you dreamed of and be happy on the journey there. And I thought, okay. And then I thought, and be happy on the journey there. And I thought, okay, that's the important bit. It's not the, when I get something, it's not the outcome based, it's the journey. It's loving every minute.
Yes.
So, talk to us that, when, I'm just going to head straight to the title. What stops us from getting what we really, really want?
Two things. Number one, not knowing exactly what we do want. We know exactly what we do not want, but very often we don't know what we do want. That's number one.
So
And the other
clarity.
one, that's probably the most frequent one. But the other one is and that is in the subconscious, that we believe we don't deserve it. And so sometimes we get great things coming into our lives, and then we sabotage it, not deliberately, but you know what I'm talking about.
I've been there.
And me.
And I think all of us at some stage, what do we call that? The imposter syndrome.
Yes, of course.
And I want to focus on the first one and then go into the sabotage side of things after. So the clarity, knowing what we want and knowing what we don't want. And as you said, a lot of people know what they don't want.
Yeah.
How do you go about focusing and figuring out what you do want?
It doesn't come easily, but you have to sit down. You have to take the time. If I don't like this, what would I like instead? Let me give you an example. You're frustrated with your partner, just as an example. And you tell them,
She
you
knows I'm
never do
live.
this. You always do that. I'm always lonely. Your work is more important than I am. Okay. Is that going to get you what you want?
No.
But it's not going to happen. You can vent, you can feel relief for a while, but nothing will change. But if you stop and think before jumping in, okay, he's working all the time, or she's working all the time, and I'm feeling lonely. This is not what I signed up for. And then, so if you think about very clearly, very often we throw everything what worries us, angers us, frustrates us, make us feel, and the kitchen sink as well. Think of one thing that matters to you the most, just one. And then what would I like to have it instead? How would I like it to be different? Then think about, still don't have a conversation, think about, you know your partner. What works for them? How can you word it in such a way that they're not going to feel defensive or going on the counterattack? Well, you don't, when I'm home, you don't want that. So how can you word it in such a way that they don't feel defensive or hurt in return, that they can actually hear you?
So,
So it's a
I mean,
question
that's
of
not
language
easy.
as well.
That's not easy because I know the reality is the way we respond to whether it be a partner in life or a partner in business, that is built up over time, and
You
then
talk about trigger.
yeah,
When we get triggered, we don't stop to think. But habits can change. The process goes something like this. Trigger. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, shit. Okay. Trigger. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Can I pedal back, please? Catching yourself in midstream. The blah, 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 blah. Oh, shit, mom. That will go on for a while. And then you go, I've done it again. But it's a process. It takes time. But if you keep at it, eventually you will catch yourself midstream where you go, okay, sorry, can I backpedal and start again? You can actually say that, and there will come a moment after a while where you actually think before you jump in.
The one thing that's kind of just jumped to mind is the and thanks Joel. He's just put in fact where's the Rockstar X comment? I've got to drop this in here. Why is my there we go. There we go. Yeah,
I
Mando.
was actually thinking the same. I promised my husband
I'll never grow up. Yeah, I'll never grow up. And therefore you've thrown me almost threw me off track there. So I guess this is one of the the thing that's come to mind now is how often when we're in that moment where we, as you say, we kind of get triggered and we're like the blah blah blah, and then we kind of realize like, oh, I've done it again. Is on the flip side of that is how important it is not to say the words "I will never do it again," because as you say, it's not something that we can it's a habit. It's not something we can just go, okay, I'll never do that again. Because that way we create doubt and disappointment in friends, partnerships.
Don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. It's part of the learning process. And it's not easy, but if you really want to and persist, and you can tell your partner afterwards, when the whole thing has cooled down a bit, is that, my mouth ran away with me. I'm really sorry. But what I really wanted to say was,
yeah.
But your relationship has to matter. And if you insist in being right and knowing that your partner was wrong, it won't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
Certainly not what you want. I know. Painful personal experience in my first marriage.
I'm going to ask you a question about that because you've referred that to that a few times in our past conversations about your previous marriage. And was it because a lot of people go, what was the moment that you kind of realized, or was it a series of events, or when did you realize that there was you needed to deal with something, and so that you could get what you want?
That's not the easiest question in the world, because you have moments of insight, but I didn't want to see them. So I saw something and then I dismissed it. And I saw something and dismissed it. And I saw, and that went on for quite a while, until one day, finally, I saw it. And it was devastating to recognize. And once you see it, you cannot pretend not to see the emptiness, um, all the things that you knew in your heart, but made light of it like it didn't matter, or I'm making a mountain out of a molehill, as I've been doing. I'm not talking about abuse. I'm not talking about serious issues. I'm talking about those drip, drip, drip things over the years that eat at you, that actually eat away at you. It weakens you. I was lucky to have Alan, my life coach. I always mention Alan. He was my first life coach, and I was with him for a long time. And it was only thanks to him that I didn't allow myself to weaken to the point that I couldn't handle my comeback. He was there with me, supported me, believed in me, and believed that I deserved better before I recognized that I deserved better. And there was this particular moment, and it varies from person to person, where all the things that in my husband's case I thought was the absent-minded professor forgetting this was his way of winding me up. And then by the time I knew how to communicate more effectively, thanks to Alan, I asked him, because I then realized that nobody would behave like that unless they felt resentful about something. And I asked him, but he kept insisting everything was fine. And if everything is fine, there's nothing you can do about it. In other cases, eventually, it was too late. It was too late. After 37 years of him building up resentments, not just me, but I didn't know that at the time. It just was too late. But in my case, I could have ended up bitter and twisted after everything, because it's been a long time of drip, drip, drip. But in my case, it's been my lab where I learned that I now use, because what I learned that was
I love that
particularly
analogy.
painful was my contribution, how I created my unhappiness and his. And it was that insight that enabled me to change.
I think, yeah, I've just picked up something that I have to just bring out, especially for those people listening, is, in order to improve your chances of success, you weren't doing this on your own. You had help. You had a life coach who was taking you through those steps. And, it's acknowledging that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have a fresh pair of eyes that can help and look at things. And I look at so many coaches and so many business owners and people that sit there and they all claim to be, hey, I'm winging it, I'm doing it on my own, I'm figuring this out, and that's okay. There's a certain amount of elements of that creativity is all good, but being able to get fresh eyes and having a coach that can guide and help you through that process, to be able to see some of those pitfalls before they happen because of their experience, which will allow you to be able to move from where you are to where you want to be a lot quicker than having to go through multiple potential failures or blockages on the way, is so important.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that to people
Yes,
out
it's
there
true.
listening.
Even very successful coaches have coaches. My
Yeah,
current coach has been coached by various different coaches, and I benefit from,
absolutely.
yeah.
I love the way that you put that, is that you benefit from the fact that they have done, and this is how important being able to have a coach is, because it's it gives you an opportunity to question yourself
Yes,
rather
exactly.
than just go on and on and go through a repetitive cycle.
But
Now,
more than that, as an outsider, they see things I can't see because I'm right in it.
yeah, and that's such an important point because there's a difference between looking at something with the right perspective or being in it that you're blinded by everything else that's going on around because you
Yes.
don't see every angle.
Mm,
Um, and the biggest challenge, and you mentioned this earlier with regards to what stops us from getting what we really want, is that clarity side of things, of knowing what we want. Because we all know what we don't want. I don't want to
yes.
do X. I don't like. We can just list those off. We can just keep going very easily. But knowing what we do want, um, and as you said, you need to take some time out to actually focus and list those down. Um, how I guess putting that those things you do want down, because I'm just thinking about the emotional roller coaster people go on. So if you're on a bad day, you can make bad decisions, and on a good day you can make incredible decisions. But if if you make those decisions on a bad day and say this is what I want, then maybe tomorrow when you wake up and you look at that list, it's not necessarily exactly what you want. It was just what you wanted at that point because of something else. How do you go
Mm.
about gaining that clarity?
Well, actually, do you know, just to make it more difficult, it's more complicated than that. Because sometimes we know what's right for us, but it's not what we want. And we go for what we want instead of what. So, for example, if you want those fries, you're going to have those fries and you start your diet tomorrow, for example.
Do you
I
mean what you mean, Sue? I just, I'm kidding.
yeah, there are more serious examples than that I'm not going to quote
Yeah, for
because you
sure.
guys are too young.
Oh dear.
But so it's complicated by the wanting, the knowing what's right for us, to have that last fag and start tomorrow, to have that last drink today and start tomorrow, and then I'm having a stressful day. I deserve, I've done so much of that. So it is complicated. It is. So it starts with what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of life do I want to have? What do I believe in? What are my values? We don't normally stop to think about it. So let's keep it simple. I'll give you some ideas on how to figure out what you really want. And that is, so sit down, quiet space, and write down what is going on in your life that you do not like. Just make a list of all of it. That should come easily. And then take the time to think, what would I like instead? How would I like it to be instead? For everything that you wrote down. So that, and that will take time. It's not something that will come easily. Take your time. Um, but against the things that are not working in your life, think what would make it work really well. Think about not what isn't going well, think about what's missing. Think
Yeah,
about what's missing as well.
absolutely.
I'll give you
Uh,
an example of something. Um, it actually is something that I was going to mention a little bit later on. But I one of the things in my life that was missing is I had never, ever, not even when I was a child, never mind in my marriage, being really listened to, really being heard, feeling understood, feeling seen. The first time ever that I felt truly listened to was when I was doing my coaching training. And we had do the practicals. We were put into groups, and one would be the coach, one would be the person being coached. And when it was my turn to be coached, that was the first time. It was overwhelming. I tell you that when the exercise finished, I, I ran to the loo and cried my eyes out because that was when I finally understood why I felt so lonely all my life. If you're not heard, if you're not listened to, so my biggest thing missing in my life was being listened to. And
Sure.
I met a man that did.
And that's one of the biggest human desires, is to be heard and loved
And seen for who we
seen. Yeah,
are.
yeah.
And the only way is to be listened to, allowed myself to express. But first, there has to be trust before I would be willing to open up layer after layer.
Yeah.
And they have to give me the space. Which is why, is it okay to say what I'm doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Which is why I'm running a meetup event. This is my fourth one now, but this one is going to be different. This is one about learning the skill of listening. So I'm allowing no more than 10 people so that we can actually do the work together.
So if you're watching this, I would suggest grab that opportunity now to message
It's
Sue.
free, by the way. It's free. It's Wednesday the 26th, 25th, 26th. It's a Wednesday for sure. And it starts at 6 o'clock British summertime. It's still British summertime.
Yeah, for a couple of more weeks.
No, for a couple of more days. It's a Wednesday before the Sunday.
Yes. I'm talking about between now and then as a couple more weeks.
Oh, yeah. Yes. But you have to go to Meetup and look for Sue Plumtree, and there we are.
So for those of you who don't know Meetup, I've never been, I was never aware of Meetup until Sue told me about it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But if you're on there, go and connect with Sue, and then make sure that you are following her here on LinkedIn for her regular updates on everything else.
This is the purest act of love that you can give anybody. Listening without judging.
Just hearing that, Sue, it's how often in life do we see a good friend or a colleague or somebody and we go, hey, how are you? But there's no intention to listen to the answer. And therefore, as humans, we've been almost programmed to kind of go, I'm fine, thanks. Because that's what we're expecting people to want to hear.
It's the other bit.
So I'm conscious of time, but
really? Oh my God, already.
A few minutes or so. But here's the thing, and the one thing that we mentioned right in the beginning, we were talking about self-sabotage or the belief system when it comes to the imposter syndrome. What stops us from getting what we really want? It's like all of a sudden we get what we really want and then we break it all down. So talk to us about that.
Well, it's a bit difficult because we don't do it on purpose. It's our insecurities that kick in, or what I like to call the gremlin. And those of you who have watched more than one of these podcasts will know that I mentioned the gremlin, or it's your negative inner critic. And they're the ones who whisper, oh, it's not going to last, you're going to put the foot wrong and he's out of the door, or she'll find somebody wealthier than you, more money, and, or more time or whatever. So you watch your stepmate. And then, of course, you go, oh, I have to, I'll make sure, I'll test him. I'll test him. Does he really love me? And then you start pushing a bit, and to prove yourself right that they're going to walk through the door because that's what you believe. Or maybe you've been abandoned as a child, and then you start second guessing everything that your partner is doing. And the poor man or poor woman doesn't know what the hell is going on.
I think that's the important bit, is always realizing there's a counter to your expectancy. There's a different experience from the other person.
Which is why, Matt, this is important, which is why it's so important. If you have a chance, if you're still single, and even if you are in a relationship, is make sure you heal your past wounds. Make sure you don't, all that baggage that most of us, I will bring, my partner will bring, we come to our any relationship with all the wounds that we bring back. They need to be healed. They need to be healed because those are the things that trigger you.
It's interesting because I'm just thinking back, for myself with regards to the fact that this doesn't only apply in personal relationships; it also
No,
applies to business. I'm thinking, maybe 12, 13 years ago, I was running a business that was doing really well, but my business partner ended up disappearing with, long story, but large amounts of money. I decided I was going to pay it back. I didn't want to declare bankruptcy. I wanted to just push through and all the rest of it. But I then became very skeptical moving forward to when I started different businesses because, and I've seen this so much with other businesses where people go, if you want something done properly, do it yourself.
ha,
And the reality is, it's one of the worst pieces of advice out there
yes,
because you never learn to delegate, you never learn to trust, and therefore your future is determined by your past experience.
yes,
So, how do we get past that, Sue?
self-awareness. And seriously, a coach, anyone who doesn't have an agenda, who has fresh eyes, can help you with that because we can see it. We can see it. If we believe that we really, then you get promoted and you end up doing both jobs. You micromanage your ex-subordinate, plus you have to do your job and you do neither one of them right. So, but you believe that it's the only way to get things done. How do you move out of that if it wasn't for an outsider that will point it out to you and stick with you and help you over that? Because it can be learned, of course.
Yeah.
Lack of trust, actually, you can let it go. Believe it or not, it's true. I can tell
Ah,
you, I can vouch for it.
I tell you what, Sue, you definitely give not only myself but many people hope, with the fact that actually this doesn't have to be so difficult. We don't have to do it on our
Doesn't it?
own,
Doesn't.
and we can break those cycles. So thank you so much for sharing that. I want to go a little bit more and focus on your meetup side of things because for those of you who don't know, Sue does both one-on-one coaching as well as group
Mm.
coaching, and she if you look at the little sign at the back over there that says "Embrace Your True You," um, is her new venture, and Sue and Joanne Reynolds are an incredible, two very special women that are making incredible things happen by helping others
Yeah.
achieve what they want to achieve. And the meetup events, I want you just to tell us a little bit more. I know you mentioned there's only 10 spots, but you do several events on a regular basis. What is the purpose of that, Sue?
It's about developing happy relationships, happy and healthy relationships. And everybody says the same thing. As I started, I have different topics. So and they all start with, would you like to know the number one secret? Because they're all the number one secret separately. So I will cover different areas that go to build strong and healthy relationships. So, for example, a previous one was about that it isn't, if you want to be together for 50, 60, 70 years, or for as long, or grow old together, basically, then it's not romantic love that will help you with that, it's friendship. And I gave some examples. Listen, by the time you get to be 77, which is me, you will have experienced everything. So I have plenty of examples of how the friendship will strengthen a marriage through the storms and setbacks and the unexpected that happen to you. You are a team, and then you can manage those turbulences better together. Other ones have been about the importance of looking after yourself, which we covered here, because until we look after ourselves, we can't look after other people. And again, I talked about examples, I have plenty of those, but also about society that has expectations of how we should be as men or as women that don't serve us. And we're not aware of them. Again, until somebody like me or anybody else pops up and says, stop, it's not true. This is how it should be. And this is how you can get there. And this is, and my passion is creating relationships, which is why I offer a 1 hour free coaching session on whatever issue you have, because it's an opportunity to slow down in a safe space and reflect where you are now and where you would like to be and how to get there, whatever that may be. So I would really love it if you got in touch with me. Thank you
Sue,
for letting me say that.
I'm just thinking of that. The most important bit of information they tell you on an airline when you're about to take off is when the mask falls, put on your own first.
Yes.
Even for parents, always yours and then your child's.
Mm,
And it's like it doesn't logically make sense until they explain that if you don't help yourself, you can't help others. And
exactly.
I just want to implore you for being such an incredible human, helping people and offering these amazing conversations that people can have. That
Mm.
who knows, maybe this is that conversation that you need to have to get past where you're at and
Yes. Just a
stop.
bit of clarity.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. So Sue, beyond the meetup, how do people connect with you? How do people get hold of you? What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a quick answer. All my contact details are there.
And one of the things that you'll find about Sue is she always responds. She is
Always.
she's not one of those people who come on LinkedIn, post and run. She responds. If you DM her, she'll respond. Um, and she always adds a bit of wisdom on there as well. But go on there and connect with Sue, and go and take advantage of the 1 hour free session. And who knows where a conversation may lead.
That's lovely. I've plagiarized that sentence. I love it.
It's my motto, and it's been for a long time. And it's without having expectations, it's incredible. I used to be, so I've been in sales for over 20 years. And one of the things that I find salespeople always do is they go in with the expectation to sell you whatever their little gizmo or service is. But they don't do the one thing that you talk about, Sue, and that's listen. So they go in with the intention of, I need to take this item and pass it on to you, whether that's a service or a product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Because they
know.
don't go in with the expectation of seeing where a conversation goes, they miss out larger opportunities. So,
Mm-hmm.
I might walk into the room and go and, just try and find out who you are and what you do. And all of a sudden, actually, you're the door that opens me to being able to distribute 1 million of those services or products to somebody else,
Mm.
the perfect person. But because I try to sell to you, I lost that opportunity.
Or find out how to improve your relationship, or find out how to find the right person for you if
Exactly.
you didn't know how.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Sue, thank you so much for sharing and being so open and honest on these sessions. And I've no doubt, we're going to see, if you go to Sue's YouTube channel, by the way, she has a ton of advice and value on there that you can go and watch. She's been all over YouTube for a long time, and a ton of videos on there that can give you advice. But do reach out to her and go and connect with her on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, whether you're watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, or LinkedIn. We will respond as and when we see those comments. So thank you very much and have an incredible day. Sue, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me to this. I love doing this. Loved it.
Excellent stuff. And now we're going to have Joel do our little sting exit. And thank you so much, everybody, for being with us today.